And hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me in 2019, a brand new year. And by the looks of our responses to the meltdown videos we did here and on Instagram, y'all got something out of that and hopefully had a nice, smooth sailing through your holiday time. Congratulations for that. So I'm Dr. Laura Dabney. I'm a relationship psychiatrist, and I typically help executive men with their relationship problems. But as I've explained here, my passion has sort of become helping those of you who are too afraid to pick up the phone and call me with any emotional problem. So I'm coming to you. This is sort of I call it my welcome mat to let you know what I think and how I do things and what I tell my patients every day, so you can learn from them and from me in this forum. Hopefully that's a little easier for you. So today I wanted to, actually this month I think, I'm going to talk about parenting, because although I do see a lot of couples, and I could actually do couples counseling without the couple, by the way. This is my public service announcement real quick. If you're having relationship problems, you do not have to go together. Okay? I and I'm sure other therapists can do couples counseling without the couple. But that is mostly what I do. But my subset, my second largest group of clients and patients are parents with child problems. It's usually a teenager or young adult parent problem. So that's the other area I focus on. So I thought I'd share a little of that with you today. And since there's been so much in the media these days, and I've been talking to a lot of writers about narcissism and sociopaths, I thought I'd combine the two and help teach you how not to raise a sociopath or narcissist, right? You don't want to deal with them anywhere. You certainly don't want your child to have that kind of problem. And let me just start by saying that narcissism and sociopathy are sort of descriptive titles of personality disorders. So the larger group is personality disorders. And personality disorders are defined, how we define them, is not monsters and horrible people that you hear in the media, but we define personality problem as somebody who has difficulty with intimate relationships. Okay? I know it makes no sense. I didn't make up the term, I promise. I don't really understand it myself. Personality disorder does not mean you have a bad personality. In fact, sociopaths often have lovely personalities. Part of the trick, part of the manipulation, right? The definition means you have not just the normal trouble with intimate relationships that we all have, but the extreme problems. You can't maintain long-standing intimate relationships, okay? So what goes into maintaining long-standing intimate relationships? Right? So you can do them. So you're don't have a personality disorder, and therefore are not, by definition, a narcissist or a sociopath. Do you get that? Right? How to raise a child who does not have a personality disorder means you have to understand what goes behind that. What is the foundation of maintaining intimate relationships? And the key there is to have a good sense and capabilities to give and take. You hear that? Give and take. Give and take. And another way of putting that actually is to a good capacity to control yourself and to put up boundaries with the other person. I'm going to stop there because notice I didn't say control yourself and control others. One hint right there of a big problem that a lot of parents have. It's controlling yourself and putting up boundaries, which helps a child control themselves. Okay. and also the capacity to change your parenting style as the child grows up. So many parents are using the same techniques for punishment and discipline when the child's a teenager as when the child was 3. Makes no sense, right? But it happens all the time. So we're going to talk about those 3 areas. Controlling yourself, putting up a boundary with a child, and changing your parenting techniques. So let's start a little bit with the giving or the controlling yourself, okay? Taking care of yourself. What I mean by that is there are lots of things that children do that they need to do to have a healthy self-esteem, to feel autonomous, to feel grown up, to feel separate from you, okay? These things can drive us crazy. I want to say I have children, by the way. People always say, well, maybe you don't even have children. I don't know what you're talking about. Not only do I have children, they're grown up, and I've been through a lot of this. I'm not giving advice and talking to you because I'm coming from a place of perfection. Okay, and if I can give examples that won't totally embarrass my children, I will. And I actually have one for this example. But okay, so lots of times when children do these things, they drive us a little crazy because they're not what we would do. All right, then that's where you have to be really careful. If they're doing something that's not hurting them or somebody else, it's best to let it go. It's best to control the reaction you're having, the feeling you're having, and let them have it, right? Let me just give some quick examples so you have an idea what I'm talking about. How the child dresses, how the child wears their hair, what hobbies or activities they like to do in their spare time, okay? What name they like to be called. These are all their choices that are not hurting them or anybody else. Now, the tricky thing is, if you have some sadness or irritation over their choice, you can so easily fool yourself into thinking that it's dangerous for them, and therefore I need to step in. And this is where the sort of delusional part of being a parent comes in, and you end up having a problem. Okay, so a great example is a child who does their homework. How they do it, when they do it. How many struggles do parents have with this, right? Because you've kidded yourself. Well, if they get a D, that's hurting them. They won't get into college, and then they'll fail out of their lives and they'll be miserable. So I need to step in, right? As opposed to controlling your anxiety about their not doing their homework, because it's really not hurting them. It's not. You can go through the catastrophe chain in your head, but that rarely, if ever, happens, okay? You can fail out of a class. You can fail a couple class grades. You can do badly for several years and then turn it around, okay? And do okay in life. You can flunk out of college and do okay in life. Okay? So you have to be able to really discern what's hurting the child and what's hurting you. I've got a great example of this from my own life. Hopefully my son will not freak out about this, but it's well known in our neighborhood. My son changed his name at 7 years old. I gave him his first name. He chose at 7 to go by his middle name, which I also gave him, but that was related to my grandfather, who was rather a stodgy person. And I did not think of my 7-year-old as a stodgy person. I just couldn't put that name with him. So I had a problem with it. It was almost like a little grieving. Like I no longer had my Johnny and I now had an Arthur. That's not the name, but right. So it was like, I can't associate. I no longer have this baby boy with this name, you know? So and this is what I'm advising you to do. is I had to check in with a lot of people, including my psych mentor, other friends whose children had changed their names, other friends who had changed their names. This is way more common than I ever imagined, but I know now. And they all told me, yeah, it's no big deal. It's not a problem. It's your problem. So I had to suck it up. I had to take care of my own grief, my own anxiety about it, and let him have it. He still goes by that name today, and it's been fine. It's no big deal. Okay, so you can't fool yourself. You might have to check with somebody else if you're having a strong reaction to something your child is doing. Right? I see a lot of this with what the child is wearing, and they make hair in a funny way. Maybe they've dyed it black or pierced something, and parents get all in a tizzy about it. But you have to hold it. Okay, that's where you're giving your child their own autonomy, their own space, their own separation. So important. Okay, so let's go to the opposite. Of course, there are times when children do things that are dangerous. Really, truly dangerous for them, or going to hurt them or somebody else. So, example, breaking the law or mishandling equipment like a car. Okay, these are dangerous things where you do have to put up a boundary. Another dangerous one that people don't really think about is when they are depending on you too much, like the child who stays home because they won't go get a job. And you have to put up a boundary. I'm only willing to support you financially until this date. Okay. A lot of parents have trouble. They feel guilty putting up a boundary because they feel it's being mean, or the child is truly enraged and maybe has said something awful like, you're a terrible parent if you do that, and I can't stand you. But you have to understand, and if you need help figuring that out, that's fine too. But what is dangerous for the child that you need to put that boundary up and won't tolerate, so they can change that? Okay, that's the putting up boundaries. That's the taking, so to speak. You're taking control back, not letting them run you over, right? So there's some give and take. The third area I want to talk about is the changing the parenting technique as the child ages. I see this so much. It's interesting because we grew up in one type of parenting style, and now society has changed all that. So I empathize with all you parents out there who, can't do the stuff that our parents did to me and probably did to you. We just can't do that anymore, and for good reason. Okay, hitting a child is always a bad idea. The reason is because it's overstimulating. When somebody hits you, they've entered your private space. It's an assault, and it's illegal. If a child hits somebody when they grow up, they're going to be sued. So you're getting this quandary of, I can hit you, but you can't hit anybody. I've had children who have hit kids for getting in trouble for hitting kids in class. It stirs them up more than you realize. And it's hard for a child to hold on to that being overstimulated like that. It's hard for an adult to handle that overstimulation, but it's terribly disruptive to a child's development. So please don't hit. I know lots of us grew up that way, and lots of people have kidded themselves. Well, that made me a better person. Probably not, but even if it did, not a good idea. So we've come into the age of timeouts and restrictions, and that's all fine. But here's the key. When a child is small, they cannot speak, right? Or they can't get their ideas in their head out. So they also can't take your ideas. They can't take abstract ideas like general safety and all that. They just can't understand it. So you're limited. You're limited to things like taking away privileges, restricting their activities, taking things away, narrowing their focus down, right? So they get it. They can see, if I do this, I lose that. They can put those two simple ideas together. But as a child ages, they start getting into middle school, certainly by high school, they have the ability to reason. And you want them to reason. You want them to learn how to do that. And you have to give that to them. Okay, your child's intimacy, your child's first long-term intimate relationship is with you. So you have to be doing this well. So they learn how to do it well. They're going to take what they learn from you and apply it to the other relationships in their life when they get older. Okay, so when the child is of reasoning age, you have to start talking to them. Taking things away, all that stuff is pointless. It's totally useless for them, okay? You want natural consequences to take their toll as much as possible so that they don't study for their tests, they get to go to school and fail. There's the consequence. You don't have to add anything to that, okay? You don't have to do anything with that except talk to them. Okay? What is going on that you're not studying for your tests? What's happening there? They may not be able to talk back, but you start getting the wheels turning. If you ask more questions, they're going to start thinking, they're going to internalize that. But why am I? I don't know. Well, they'll keep thinking about it. You don't have to, pummel them with the question. Is this the type of student you want to be? Do you think this is going to impact your future? What good or bad can come out of this? How did your teacher react? What are some other options? I mean, all these questions to get them to think, right? That is how they learn to, and then, okay, so maybe they'll say something along the lines of, well, I'm perfectly fine getting B's. I can get into college with B's. I don't need to get straight A's. That's your problem, Mom, Dad. I'm going to get B's. Okay. Maybe you're fine with them getting B's, but maybe they're smart. Maybe they can get B's pretty easily. And then you're not happy with them sitting around the house doing nothing. Well, then you start talking about that. Well, okay, if you're not going to do your homework, you're not going to sit around here. What else can we have you do that might help your resume in getting into college? Maybe that you want to start a new sport, or maybe I'll give you extra lessons in such and such so you get better at that sport, some volunteer work, some whatever. That's called compromising. So you want to start compromising with the child. Okay? Not with the things that are dangerous. If they're drinking and driving, you just simply take the car away for a little while and talk. Taking the car away. Is this how you plan to act when you have a car? You're going to drink and drive? But that's not really a compromise. You want to get what they're thinking. How can they handle things different next time? You want to get to that. But maybe the curfew, that's a big one. I know the city curfews in some areas, you can't really compromise on that, except maybe they spend the night somewhere else. They can't get home. But if there's some wiggle room on a time, you might have to have a talk with them about that. Think about it. When they're married, their spouse isn't going to take their phone away if they, lose their job, or if they stop showing up late to work. It's about, you want your child to talk and work it out. What's going on? You want your child to be able to ask that and be able to answer that. That's an adult to adult relationship, and you got to start having it before the child is an adult. So when they're an adult, they can do it, right? That's the difference. A narcissist they can't do that give and take. The narcissist has to be here in order to feel sufficient. Not only do they have to be here, they have to have everybody else down here. Healthy people can have all kinds of competent people around them, and people with their own ideas and own values and own, they're comfortable with that. But a narcissist has to have everybody down here in order to feel whole. Right? They can't do the give and take. So you have to start doing that when your kid can reason. I have parents that come in, I took his phone away for 2 months. That has nothing to do with them being late for their curfew 2 weeks in a row. That's not going to translate to the adult world, right? The boss is going to come and say, "What the hell? Why are you late all the time?" Or What is going on with you? I can take it may take their pay away, but again, it's just too concrete. You want them to be able to do that give and take, and it starts with you. This is not a blame the parents story, okay? I know people, I don't want to blame my parents, and it's not about that. But the fact remains that you are an integral part of your child's life. You're the only part of a child's life for a long time, and then you're an integral part of that life as they grow up. So you have a huge influence on that. It's also not to scare you. It's to give you hope. You can see and go through these changes or ask for help to do so. Okay? So give and take, control yourself, put up boundaries against them, and change your approach as they change, as they grow. All right? We'll be coming back next week with some more talk on parenting, and I'll also see you on Instagram. Thanks so much. Bye.